Are you desiring more out of life? More love, more connection, more experience, just more aliveness? Well, that is your soul calling you, and together we are going to uncover those soul desires and help you bridge the gap between your physical life and your true soul self. Welcome to the Suddenly Spiritual Podcast. My name is Emilee. I'm an intuitive, a psychic medium, and someone who recently and very suddenly awakened to spirituality. On this podcast, we are going to talk all about connecting with your soul to live your fullest, most beautiful life. We're going to talk about spirituality from the perspective of the everyday person. It's my goal that you feel seen and supported on this journey of discovering your soul and awakening to the incredible world of spirit. Let's get started. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Suddenly Spiritual Podcast. It's me, Emilee, and oh boy, I have missed you. I don't even really know how to start because it's been a while since I've chatted with you guys, since I've recorded an episode. If you listened to my little update that I put out about a month ago now, my life took a weird and scary turn for a little bit, and I had to pull away from the podcast, pull away from doing readings, pull away from everything that wasn't taking care of my family. If you listened to that episode, thanks, because the audio was terrible. It was so bad. I can't believe anyone listened to it, honestly, because I recorded it while driving in my car. And you can hear all the noise of the car. I had no time to do any sound editing or anything. You can hear my turn signal. It's pretty bad. And maybe now that life has calmed down a bit, I can go back and improve the audio quality on there. But if you listen to that, wowzers, thanks. Because the quality was so terrible. So today, jumping back into recording the podcast and being here with you guys, I wanted to give you a little update about what's been happening in my life, but I also wanted to share with you how that experience felt with my connection to spirit. In the past, when anything major, big, scary, life-changing has happened, I haven't had this spiritual awareness. And honestly, this experience was very different from how I have experienced traumatic life events in the past. I felt really supported through the whole thing, even though it was so scary. And I wanted to share with you what that experience was like and just give you kind of a little update on my life. And also, before I dive into that, and I'll tell you more about the situation also. But before I dive into that, I also want to give you a little update about how things are going to be moving forward with the podcast, with doing readings and things like that. So, for now, for the podcast, I am still going to be publishing episodes. I thought I might take the whole summer off, but I have a lot I want to say. So I don't think I'm going to do that. Right now, my plan is to hopefully still be publishing episodes weekly starting this week. But I don't know if I'll always get an episode out every week because my availability, my time that I have to do this has shifted quite a bit. So I don't always have time to record, but I'm hoping to still get episodes out, if not every week, every other week, but I'll still be publishing through the summer podcast episodes. I've just learned so much. I just have so much insight from the last couple weeks that I really want to share with you. And so I'm going to do my best to still do that because I don't know. I thought about stopping the podcast for a few more months just to keep focusing more deeply on myself and on my family and kind of keeping my bubble small for a little while. But there's so many messages that Spirit's bringing me, and I just feel like I have to say them. I just feel like I have to share them. So today and then moving forward, I have some big messages and big moments that have come through that I'm really looking forward to sharing. But just know podcasts might be a little sporadic for the next few months, especially moving into summer. I thought I was going to have summer childcare, but now I don't think I'm going to have childcare. I think I'm just going to be me and the kids out of school. So life is going to be a little different than I originally planned, with a lot less time for just me. So that's first about the podcast. And then I also wanted to let you guys know I'm taking the summer off from doing readings. So if you had wanted to schedule a reading, if you were planning on scheduling a reading, all of that is on hold until the fall. Probably September, I think, is when I'll plan on starting back up with doing readings. And I'm just going to take this summer to really focus in on my family and also further my own development. There's so much I have to learn with readings. And so over the summer, I'm going to be doing some more education, some more practice circles, things like that. And really just filling my cup is my plan. Filling my cup, kind of just exploring with curiosity. When I do practice readings with people, with other developing psychics and mediums and channelers, those practice readings are just like a playground, and there's no pressure to get anything right. I can practice new techniques. We can work together, figure things out. It's a lot different vibe than doing a paid reading for a client because there's obviously more pressure. I want to provide what you need. I want to get the evidence all exactly right. I don't really have the space to try new techniques and things like that. So over the summer, I'm just going to be working on new techniques, working on deepening my connection, deepening my interpretation of the messages that Spirit's giving me. And then coming back in the fall, like I said, probably September, maybe October, I don't know. Around that time is when I'll start back up doing readings for the public, and you'll be able to book with me again then. So now that I've given you a little update on how things are going to be moving forward, I'm going to give you a little more information about this situation that I'm talking about, this traumatic experience, this scariness that transpired for my family and caused this very unexpected break in the podcast and in my spiritual business. So I'm still going to be a little vague, but less vague than my last update. So very unexpectedly, my husband was in an accident, and the accident was really scary. I mean, I got a knock on my front door from a police officer at night telling me my husband had been in an accident, telling me he was unconscious, he was bleeding, his condition was unknown, and he'd been transported to a hospital. And then the officer said, "You can go to the hospital if you want. I don't care." Those were his exact words. What a horrible thing to say to someone when they've just experienced that dumping of shocking information. But that's besides the point. That man needs some training on how to talk to people. So that happened on a Monday night. I went to the hospital. I had no idea what had happened. I was left in the waiting room of the emergency room for probably 4 hours. I don't know. A long time. I'd say at least 4 hours before I was able to see my husband, before they would tell me anything that had happened. I had no idea his condition until then. And his condition wasn't good. It wasn't good. It was really scary. As he was in the hospital, he was in the emergency room, he was in the ICU, he was inpatient at the hospital, just moving through all the different areas of the hospital where you can stay. Ended up with a few weeks of hospital stay, and he's recovering now. So things are improving now. But during that time, we have 3 kids. Our families live very far away. It was terrifying. I mean, it was so scary. I truly, I almost lost the person who I've built my whole life with. And gosh, I didn't think I'd cry, but maybe you can hear. It's still so raw and so emotional because it was so scary. And so as I'm processing, the fact that my husband might not come back to me when he's in the hospital. He's still unconscious for a few days and not really himself for a while. I'm also the sole caregiver for my children, and I'm having to figure out who can help me take care of my kids, who can help me by being at my home with my kids so I can be at the hospital with my husband, so I can advocate for him to the doctors, so I can know what's going on, so I can be there when he wakes up. All of these things that I needed to be there with him, but I also needed to be home with my kids and scrambling to find childcare, to find support. I was so lucky during this time to have found things to support me, things to support the kids, people for the kids to be with where I felt comfortable and felt like they were safe because it's so important to me that my kids are with people that I trust. And my trust is a little hard to earn when it comes to my children. I'm I'm pretty particular about who stays with them and for how long and all those things. So I was really fortunate to find people and resources for my kids to be with, and then to have family come out and stay with my kids, stay at the house so that I could focus fully on being with my husband. It was just a terrifying time. I said I would be vague, but I just gave you a lot of information about the scenario. And so now he was in the hospital for a few weeks. He's back home. Things are really getting back to normal now. Things are returning to how they were before. And at the same time, things feel very, very different than how they were before that accident because holy cow, it just shook me. It changed how I want to approach life. It changed how I want to approach my family, the way that I view my family, the way that I view my relationship with my husband, the way that I view my desire for a career. Like everything is shaken up right now, and it feels very unclear how I want to move forward. Gosh. So today might be a little rambly, I guess, because what I'd like to do is talk to you about how it felt having this experience as someone who's connected with spirit. I wanted to talk to you about what it's like going through a traumatic event with the knowledge that there's energetic support. In future episodes I'm going to be recording, I want to talk to you about the lessons that this experience has taught me from a spiritual perspective and the different things that spirits brought me through this because this shit was hard. Like, this shit was hard. I kind of thought at the beginning of my spiritual journey and my personal development journey that developing this connection with spirit, developing this knowledge within, meant that my life would never be hard again because I was connected to eternal love. Like, I'm connected with this unconditional love, and I know how to access it. I know how to talk to it. I know how to let it support me. I know how to live my day feeling unconditional love. And I thought, cool, my life is perfect now. I'm going to cruise through life. Nothing's ever going to feel hard again. And as I found out, that's not true because even though I've developed this deep soul knowing, soul connection, like this deep knowing that I'm always supported, things are always going to work out in the way they're meant to. I know this, but I'm also still a person. And I'm also still living this life that's very fragile and that means so much to me. So much to me. Hard things are still going to happen. That was a big lesson for me. Hard things are still going to happen because we're still people. We're still humans. We're still meant to have this human experience. And if hard things never happen, then we're never going to have opportunities to grow, to evolve. Our souls came to this lifetime for evolution, for personal growth, for development, for understanding on a deeper level how to experience that eternal love, how to experience these different challenges. And we don't grow unless we're challenged. And this experience was an incredible challenge for me and a bit of a wake up call for how much I have been overvaluing my spiritual connection and undervaluing my human experience. And I've talked before on the podcast about how I have been struggling a bit to figure out how this spiritual connection, this spiritual life fits in with my human life. They felt so separate. And this experience really brought them together, like really brought them into one and helped me to see how my identity isn't necessarily split up into all these different aspects. I'm not spiritual Emilee, and then later in the day, I'm human Emilee. Like, I'm all of these things all the time. And with my experience, there were moments when I was sitting next to my husband in the hospital, not knowing what was going on, feeling the incredible anticipation, fear, like the preemptive grief almost of not knowing if he would wake up, who he would be when he woke up, things like that. And that deep human experience was happening alongside feeling the deep connection to spirit. There was the fear and the calm at the same time. I was living this very heart wrenching human experience while also feeling the deep unconditional love and support of spirit. It made the situation easier than I know it would have been at different points in my life. But just because it was easier didn't mean it was easy. Didn't mean it wasn't hard. Didn't mean that my heart wasn't broken in those moments. So, I want to tell you a bit about leading up to that experience. Some of the things that in retrospect I can see spirit was showing me how supported I was in the days leading up to that experience. I hope you'll excuse my sniffles. I'm going to try and edit my sniffles out, but I'm a little teary recording this. And to be honest, I didn't expect to be so emotional saying these things because I've had time to process. But oh, geez Louise, apparently not enough. I know that I'm still processing everything and it's still emotional. I just kind of thought I was past the deep crying emotions, but it, like I said, a big life event. So I want to talk to you about leading up to this experience, the ways that spirit started showing up for me. And these are things that I'm only able to see in retrospect. At the time, of course, I sensed spirit coming near me. I sensed these experiences where suddenly my past loved ones were very, very present for me, like more present than normal for me. And I sensed that, but I didn't know it meant something major was about to happen. I didn't know what it meant. I just thought, oh, cool. This is so cool. I'm so loved. I feel so supported. But I didn't have an anticipation that something major was about to happen. And I have some thoughts about that, which I'll share in just a minute. So, leading up to this event, I started really feeling the presence of spirit a lot, a lot. Leading up to this, I was actually preparing for something with my business, and I was going to be offering a full week of trainings for how to connect with your spirit guides. And I recorded all of that, and I was going to put it out on the 15th, which ended up being the day of the accident. And for whatever reason, for maybe a nudge from spirit is clearly what it was, I decided, no, I'm not going to start it on Monday. I'm going to start it on Tuesday. And I thought that's really weird. If I want to do a week of something, I should really start it on Monday. But I just kept feeling like, no, I'm going to wait a day. I need to wait a day. I'm going to start this week of trainings on a Tuesday instead. And I'm so glad I did because then I was able to just not do the trainings at all, once this event happened and I didn't feel like I was leaving in the middle of something or leaving everybody hanging. But because I was preparing for that, I was connecting with my own spirit guides every day, multiple times a day, just preparing to share that information. And I always want to practice what I preach. So I was really diving into connecting even more deeply with my own guides. And so I felt their support so much because I had been so deeply connected with them in the weeks leading up to this. And I think that was, I mean, nothing is a coincidence. Nothing in our lives is a coincidence. It's all energy. It's all the universe supporting us. It's all spirit supporting us, God supporting us. And so the reason I felt so compelled to prepare the spirit guide training at that time, start connecting with my guides more deeply at that time, was getting me ready for this experience. Also, leading up to this experience, I love to pull cards for myself. And every time I pulled cards for myself, I kept getting the message of community, of the importance of having support from your community, leaning on your community, building a community. Just all of these cards I pulled, every time it was about this connection with others and leaning on that connection and allowing yourself to be supported. This was happening for probably at least 3 months leading up to this event. Every time I pulled cards, I would get these community cards. And I know why now. At the time, though, I just kept taking it as advice. Okay, I'll keep building my community. I will keep focusing on friendships. I will keep focusing on nurturing my relationships. And I can see now why that advice was constantly being presented to me. It was to prepare me for this event so that I could feel comfortable leaning on people when I needed them because I truly needed them. And I was so grateful that I had built up community leading up to this. I'd built up relationships leading up to this so that I could lean on them and I could feel comfortable asking for that support because I truly, truly needed it. I really needed to build up that trust so that I could lean on people when I really needed to. Because, like I said, with my kids, I am very protective of them. And I needed to have that level of trust in other people, those relationships built up so that I could ask for support and feel safe and letting my children be with other people so I could be with my husband. And then with my loved ones showing up more. It's just so amazing, I guess, how this showed up. But in the days leading up to that event, I don't know the exact days, probably the weekend right before, maybe the week before, I'd been cleaning out my closet and I kept finding jewelry that I haven't seen for years. For 5, 10 years, I haven't even seen this jewelry. And I kept finding these pieces of jewelry that had belonged to my loved ones who have passed. I found this necklace from my grandma, who's in spirit, is the very first person I ever connected with on the other side, the very first really spiritual experience that I could identify that I had. And finding this necklace, it was given to me when I was probably, I don't know, 12 years old. Finding it, and at that time, I was like, oh, grandma, this is so special. I'd forgotten about this necklace. I'd forgotten that this even existed. And it really felt like my grandma saying hi. Uh, At that same time, that same week, that same time frame, I also found a bracelet that had been given to me when my great grandma passed away. And I love my great grandma. I have so many special memories with her. She's someone who I've communicated with a little bit on the other side. And it was this sweet little like, hi from my great grandma. Around that same time, I don't know, maybe before I found that jewelry, after, I'm not sure. But I started feeling like, so I have a ring that was given to me that used to belong to my mother in law. And my mother in law was an incredible, bright, funny, light, welcoming, just, oh, she is like, I don't know how to describe her. She's someone who I met and I instantly loved. She's just one of those connections where I didn't know her for long in this human life, but she made a huge impact on me just by her openness, her willingness to be loving, her welcoming nature made an incredible impact on me. And in the days leading up to this accident that my husband was in, I kept feeling like I gotta find that ring from my mother-in-law. I need to find that ring because I have this ring that used to belong to her. And So I started searching for it and I found it and then I started wearing it every day. And it was just like, I don't know. I just feel like I need her with me right now. I feel like she's with me right now. And I felt like I needed, like, I wanted that. I wanted to feel that presence. And so in the time leading up to this event, Spirit was gathering around me. Spirit was giving me messages. Spirit was preparing me for this. My loved ones in spirit were coming forward, getting close. My, all of the oracle cards I was pulling, all guiding me towards building this community, leaning on that community. All of these things were happening that really were preparing me. Spirit was preparing me. I was having all of these supportive experiences with my spirit guides. I was really getting so comfortable, so able to connect with my guides like in an instant. I was working on developing that connection further. So that's what happened leading up to this event. And I wouldn't have that perspective if I didn't already have this spiritual connection. I wouldn't be able to see the ways that I was supported if I didn't have that spiritual connection that I have now. And I just wanted to share all of that with you. I don't know why. I mean, I guess because I want you to see the events in your life, these major events happening in your life, because we're all human. Scary things are going to happen, difficult things are going to happen. You know, you have a whole lifetime. Hopefully, you get 100 years. That's my plan. Think of all the different things that can happen during 100 years. You can lose people that you love. You can lose your job. You have to move. You get sick. Someone you love gets sick. All of these big things are going to happen during your life. And if you can maintain your connection with spirit, universe, God, it's going to prepare you for that. You are going to be supported in those events. And for me, these are the ways that I can now see that I was supported, I was guided, I was led, I was held leading up to this event. I was shown how to prepare. At the time, when I kept getting messages about building community, I didn't know why. I was just like, "Oh, okay, I guess. I don't really want to. I kinda like being alone." But I guess, and I kept thinking this is so weird because I'm not someone who spends a lot of time with friends. I'm not someone who has that kinda lifestyle. I love doing things on my own because I have, like, so many hobbies, so many things that I like to do, and I like to just do it. I don't always spend a lot of time with other people, but that guidance kept coming in, and so I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll just do it," but I didn't know why, and I guess my point is when spirit is bringing you these messages continually, this guidance continually, there's probably a reason, and you might not know why until way later on. I was getting those messages about community for at least 3 months, maybe longer, leading up to this event, and like I said, it was pretty much every single time I pulled cards for myself, like oracle cards, tarot cards. When other people pulled cards for me, it was always about community, always about relationships, always about building that human love, that human aspect, that trust and support around me. And now I know why. Right? Even if this event hadn't happened, like support, trust, community, that's great. We should all have that. But I just want you to know, like, we don't always understand the full picture. Actually, we probably never understand the full picture because our future is always unfolding in front of us. It's always being built in front of us, but we cannot see it. We can't see it. And there is a level of trust that we have to have that we are being guided in the ways that we need to, in the ways that are going to most support us for what is coming next. And there's so much trust in just doing what you're being led to without knowing why. So I hope that this example I'm giving you can give you a little bit of context to why it's so important to follow those nudges, why you're being guided to things that you don't really understand. For me, it was community. Maybe for you, it's leaning more into your creativity right now because down the road, there's some big creative opportunity that's going to come. Who knows? Maybe you're being guided to move. Maybe you're being guided to get a job, even though you're a stay at home spouse or wife or parent and you don't really need to get a job, but you keep feeling pulled to get a job. There's probably a reason for these things. Spirit's guiding you. And when a message shows up over and over and over and over again, that's not a coincidence. There are no coincidences. There really aren't. Everything is energetic. Everything is connected. Everything's connected. And if something's coming to you over and over, it's time to pay attention. That's because spirit, your guides, your ancestors, your past loved ones, however you want to categorize it, but they're bringing you a message. They're bringing something to you to bring to your attention, to guide you, to gently push you forward. And maybe it's to prepare you for something that's coming. Maybe. Maybe they're just guiding you to have a little more fun in your life because they know that that's what your heart and soul needs. Or maybe they're preparing you for something big, which is what was in my case. I also want to tell you about my experience during this situation, like while my husband was in the hospital. This was, I had a very profound experience and it feels so profound to me. I hope that I can relay it in a way that makes sense to you. So while my husband was in the hospital, I was in shock, to be honest. I think that's understandable. The officer came to my door, told me that whole scenario I told you. I showed up to the hospital. I didn't get any information for a long time. I saw my husband. Things did not look good. So I was with him at the hospital at night. Came home. Thankfully, I have a very sweet neighbor who came and stayed with my kids at night so that I could be in the hospital all night. I got home around 5 in the morning, slept for 30 minutes, maybe, got my kids up, got them to school, got them to preschool, went back to the hospital. I was running on no sleep, all adrenaline, all coffee. Got to the hospital. Things still look not good at all for my husband. And I was feeling really helpless in the hospital, feeling completely helpless. Like, what can you do? I was just sitting there with someone who is my whole world, who's my stability, who's my partner, sitting with him, and there was nothing I could do to help the situation. All I could do was wait and see what happened. It's a very helpless feeling. It's really, horrible. I was just crying and holding his hand and not knowing what to do and listening to the nurses, listening to the doctor, but I wasn't able to engage. I wasn't able to really do anything. And I was just going through the motions. Like, what do I even do? How is this real? Am I really here? Is this really happening? This is insane. It was about 12 hours after I had got the news about my husband. And I can tell you the exact moment that shock wore off. It is insane. Like, I was feeling this helplessness. And I'm sitting there with my husband. And in my mind, I'm thinking, Spirit, help me. Spirit, help me. Like, what is going on? This cannot be real. Spirit, help me. Like, I know that I need to wake up. I know that I need to figure this out. I know I need to be here. Like, Spirit, help me. And I'm sitting there with my husband, and the doctor is talking, and I'm not really processing anything the doctor is telling me. I'm just nodding my head. Okay, okay, okay. I don't know what you're saying, but okay. I don't know what's going on. I'm so scared. All these things going through my head. And as I'm making my prayer to Spirit, as I'm setting my intention that, like, I want to be present, I want to be here, help me. I I'm going to explain this to you even though it just sounds wild. My eyes are still open. I'm still there. I'm still in the moment, but I can sense and I can see this yellow energy in my stomach, and I can feel it, this yellow energy, like swirling and expanding out of me. It's out of my body, it's in my aura, it's around me. And I'm thinking, this is wild. Generally, my experiences with spirit are when my eyes are closed. That's when I get my visuals. My clairvoyance is not in the moment when I'm speaking to someone. It's when my eyes are closed and I'm so focused on connecting with spirit. That's when I get these visions. That's when I really experience the energy of being connected with spirit. But here I was in the hospital talking to a doctor in this, there's tons of people around. I'm not in my meditative state that I generally get in to connect with spirit and channel messages and have these experiences. Instead, I'm here in this moment, in this very human moment. And I'm having this experience of actually feeling my energy. And I felt and saw a clear shift in my energy. And I'm seeing this yellow energy come out of my stomach, fill my aura, like go through me. And it was like I woke up. It was like the fog was lifted. Like someone clapped their hands and it's like, oh God, I'm awake. I'm here. I'm going to take charge. I'm going to figure this out. I'm in charge. And I had this realization of how vulnerable my husband was in that moment, unconscious, at the mercy of doctors, of all of this. And I realized that I was his advocate. I was like, I love him so much. He's my husband, the person I built my life with. And I realized that I needed to take care of him. I needed to advocate for him. I needed to communicate with the doctors. I needed to be in charge. There were all of these people who wanted to come and visit my husband when he was in this state, like, friends, coworkers, all these people who had heard about his accident and wanted to come and be with him. But here was my husband who was not conscious, not able to speak for himself. And I realized I am his voice. I am his filter. I am his boundary, his barrier. I am everything right now. And I felt this incredible self-confidence surge through me, this incredible power, like this assuredness. I don't know if that's a word, but this sureness, this certainty that I was going to be his voice. I was going to take charge. And in that moment, that's what I did. I actively spoke with the nurses and said, do not let anyone in this room other than the doctors, everyone else comes through me. Here's my phone number, give it to them. I'm going to be in charge now. We're not just going to float around and just see what happens. Like, I'm going to ask all the questions. I'm going to get all the information. I'm going to take notes. I am here to be his voice. And I I don't think I've ever felt that drastic change before. I mean, the contrast from 1 second to the next, from before that moment of clarity, that moment of waking up to right after, they're at complete contrast. And there is nothing I can attribute that to, especially with the incredible aspect of having the clairvoyance in that moment. I can't attribute that to anything other than spirit. It was happening in the moments I was asking spirit for help. I was asking, like, listen, I need to navigate this. I need to, like, how can I do this? I have my husband here who needs me. I have my kids who need me. Like, how can I do this? And being filled with that confidence, that being sure, I can't attribute that to anything other than an answer to my prayer, other than an answer to that plea, that request to spirit. It was incredible. It was incredible. And I've never experienced anything like that before. Like, just so, gosh. I don't know, that objectively seeing my energy, feeling my aura in a moment where I didn't feel like I had the capacity to do that. But the thing is, I didn't need the capacity to do it because all I needed was the trust and faith in spirit. I had to surrender. And geez Louise, I surrendered and that's what happened. I was given exactly what I needed and I was able to navigate that situation and the next couple weeks with a calm, with the ability to take charge, which is what needed to happen for us to successfully move through this experience. I was able to coordinate everything that needed to be coordinated. I was able to take the notes, ask the questions, get the information, figure out the follow up care, figure out my kids, figure out everything for everyone. I was able to be the rock, which is who I needed to be in that moment. And not only did this serve me in that moment, but it showed me a side of myself that I didn't know existed because I had to have some uncomfortable conversations with people. In my standing up and being the voice for my husband, I had to stand up to other people who I normally would never have stood up to. People who wanted to visit my husband, who wanted to be part of this experience, who, you know, people who be out of care and love, I'm sure, but who their presence was making things more difficult. I don't know how much detail I should get into, but there was just some I'm not going to say anymore, actually. But I had to stand up to people and say, I need you to leave. So uncomfortable to say to someone's face, I need you to leave. This is not benefiting the situation. I need you to leave. I had to just unequivocally be blunt with people. I had to stand up to people in ways I haven't before. I had to take charge in ways that I have not before. And this showed me a side of myself where I can be confident, I can be in charge, I can say these things, these uncomfortable things to people. And it was okay. They respected me. They respected my wishes. They listened to me. And it was okay. And I was able to be the person that my husband needed me to be. And it showed me what I'm capable of and what a gift. I, I'm 35 years old and I thought I knew myself, but I'm still learning who I am. This wasn't part of my identity before. Well, it was. I just didn't know it. And what an incredible gift to learn that I have this power. I have this self confidence. I can stand in this way. And not that I wanted this situation to happen in order for me to realize that, but Spirit showed me that confidence. I don't want to say that Spirit gave it to me. What I really feel is true is that Spirit helped activate that within me, like bring my attention to it, bring my awareness to it, help to amplify what was already within me and helped to support me to speak in confidence the way that I needed to. So that's an experience I really wanted to share with you because wow, it was so powerful. And I hope that you can feel how powerful that was and completely, it was unexpected. So much of this has been so unexpected. And it was such a miracle that I'm honestly still processing because sometimes things happen slowly over time. This wasn't something that happened slowly over time. This was an instant where I felt a click, a shift, a change immediately. And it was pretty freaking incredible. There's one last thing I want to share with you about this experience, and that is how it has been after the experience. So, my husband returned home. My family, who I'm so grateful for, my family who came and took care of my kids for me so I could be with my husband, went back to their homes. Life is returning to normal, and it's not. I'm still processing the impact that this experience is going to have on my life moving forward. And I thought, as we're in the middle of this, my husband's still in the hospital. I'm at the hospital with him. And I'm like, okay, once he starts really moving toward recovery. Once I'm back home, we're back on a regular schedule. Everything's going to be amazing. Everything's going to be fine. And it is fine. There is so much peace in being home, and he's healthy, and what a freaking gift that he is healthy now. But life hasn't returned exactly the same because I feel different and I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning if I really want my life to expand back out in the ways I was trying to expand it before. I'm questioning if it's really important for me to have this huge life that I've dreamed of, or if I'm just meant to be here with my kids, with my husband, if I'm just meant to have a small bubble of my life. Not because I don't think I'm meant to have a big impact on the world, but because maybe my impact is here. Maybe here's where I'm needed the most. I I'm still figuring out how much I want to expand that bubble. I'm still figuring out what I want to add back into my life. Because during this experience, I condensed my life down to only include taking care of my family. I made it so small. I made my life so small because that's all that I had the capacity for. Everything that wasn't caring for my family and taking care of this situation fell away. And now that the moments have passed, I'm asking myself, what do I bring back in? What do I invite back into my life? I thought I would just jump back into life how it was before, and I don't think that that's what's happening. So, I guess I don't really know what I want to share with you about this experience of afterwards, except for that I have a real lack of clarity about what my life is going to look like moving forward. I considered not even starting the podcast back up again. Adding more responsibility just felt scary to take away from my family, take away from their needs. But things are becoming more stable. Things are going back to a routine. And I'm seeing that, okay, I do have space to add some things back in. And I asked myself, do I want to add this podcast back in? Do I want to add back in building this business? What do I actually want my life to look like? Because right now I'm in a pause. I'm in a pause from everything. And I get to choose what my life looks like moving forward. I get to choose what I invite back in. This is my opportunity to change things, right? Because when we're in pause, when life has given us a pause, I mean, think of when everything shut down for COVID. Your life got a lot smaller. And when things started opening back up, you had the choice of what you were going to add back in. You had the choice. Am I just going to go back to exactly how things were before? Or am I going to use this as an opportunity to only invite in the things that I want and the things that I need? And to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of clarity right now about what exactly I want to invite back into my life. I could easily go back to living my life exactly the way I was before. And honestly, I was happy with that. I was happy with how my life was before this moment. But I have a knowing that something is meant to change. And I'm just not sure exactly what that change is. And so I talked to you before about how we get guidance from spirit. We get nudges from spirit, and we don't always know what they mean. We don't always know where they're leading us. And that's where I am right now. I don't have the clarity of where I'm going next. I don't have the clarity of what life is going to be like next because I've gotten this huge shock. What do I want to do with this huge shock? I don't know. I do know that I I have a new value, a new deeper value, I guess. I don't know what the right word is for how important the people in my life are, for how deep my love is for them, for how much I want to cherish them. That has shifted because this situation, we never saw it coming. I mean, my husband and I, we're not that old. We're 35. We're both really healthy. Like, really, we eat really healthy. We're physically, like, exercising. We're really healthy people. And so potentially losing one of us, losing my husband, that was nowhere on our radar. And this has been such a wake up call to how fragile life is and how important life is and how, each moment it's not guaranteed. And so, how do I want to live my life respecting the fact that my time here is limited, respecting the fact that my time with the people I love is limited? So much of my life has been dictated by what are the expectations of me? What am I supposed to do in this situation? But if my moments are so limited, shouldn't I be asking myself, what do I want to do? What do I want to experience? What is my soul calling me to do? Life is so fragile. And what if I live my entire life doing what I think I'm supposed to do and never doing the things my soul's calling me to do? That's where I'm at right now. That's the question I'm asking myself. This is like what do they say? What's the word? My like existential moment? I don't know. I'm just really pondering that right now. And I'm keeping that in my heart as I figure out where I'm going moving forward. So that's my experience. That's a little deeper into what's been going on in my life over the last month, what it's been like having this experience as someone who's so deeply connected with spirit, talking about letting my life expand a little more now that I see I'm having space to come out of my little family bubble a little bit. I started going to yoga this week, and the yoga class that I started is so incredible. And each class, the instructor is asking us set an intention for this class at the beginning, and we sit with quiet and set an intention for the class, for what we want to receive, what we want to let go of, what experience we want to have in that time that we have together doing yoga. And when she asked us what our intention was in class yesterday, I sat in silence and I thought, my intention is I want clarity. I want clarity by the end of this class. I want to know, I want this fog to lift and I want to know what's happening. Let's make a plan. And I heard this whisper that said, you need to let go of the need for clarity. And so that's my intention. My intention right now, the intention I set in that class is learning to let go of my need for clarity, trusting that I'm being led and guided exactly where I need to go, trusting that Spirit's with me unconditionally in every moment, and letting go of my need to know exactly what's going to happen. Because this experience has taught me that so much of life is unpredictable. But if we lean into Spirit, if we hear the messages, we can at least be prepared a bit for that unpredictability. We can be carried through it. We can be loved through it. And we can let our souls experience the lessons that we're meant to experience in this lifetime. We're here to learn. We're here to grow. We're here to expand. But part of that is getting quiet, listening within, and letting life unfold sometimes. So, my dear friends, if you made it through this whole podcast, thank you for listening to my story. This is a lot more personal than things that I've shared on the podcast before. So just thank you for being a safe place for me to dump on you my life. But I do hope that there are lessons in here that support you. I find I learned so much from hearing other people's experiences, and I hope that hearing this experience supports you as you move through life, because like I said, these big events are going to happen to everyone. This is our human experience, and what I've been going through in the last month, my family's been going through in the last month, is part of that human experience. And even though it's so freaking hard, it's also such a gift. And I hope that hearing my process helps you in your own process. Okay. I'm sending you all the love, and I'll chat with you again soon. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Suddenly Spiritual podcast. I'm so grateful that I get to be part of your journey of spiritual expansion. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would leave a review for me on Apple Podcasts. It's a quick, free, easy way for you to support this podcast, and it helps me reach more people who are looking for support on their spiritual journey. You can find a link to leave a review in the show notes. Thank you so much, and I'll chat with you soon.